What is up, guys? Random Name here. Just want to make a quick video because Riot just posted some new information regarding the North America LCS that's going to take effect starting in 2018, and these are some massive changes on how the LCS is going to operate in the North America region. So I'm going to let you guys watch the video that they posted, which is only 4 minutes long, and then we're going to go through the actual paragraphs that they posted and talk about some more of the nitty-gritty details, what we do know, what we don't know, and what I'm hoping to hear about in the future. So let's watch the video real fast.
Hi, I'm Jared Kennedy. This is Waylon Roselle. We lead esports for Riot Games, and we're here today with an update on the future of the NALCS. A few months ago, we wrote an article where we talked about our vision for LoL esports, and in it, we focused on the importance of building towards a stable and sustainable future. That theme is really important to us because as fans, we want to do everything we can to ensure that epic moments like that recent Game 5 in Vancouver continue to happen for years and years to come. We believe the steps we're announcing today, which will be implemented for the start of the 2018 season, will go a long way to achieving that goal.
And the changes we'll be making will be focused on three major areas: revenue sharing with teams and pros to build a better foundation, giving pros a larger voice and better protections, and changing up the structure of our league to enable long-term investments. So digging into rev sharing a bit, now that the NALCS is beginning to generate some revenues, especially in light of our recent media deal, we think now is a good time to talk about it. And fundamentally, we believe that all parties that contribute to an ecosystem should also benefit from it. So to do so, we'll be sharing league revenues with teams and pros beginning in 2018. And we think this is great because for teams, this will enable them to make better investments and more investments into their squad, and should, in theory, help with competitive parity because it gives revenues up and down the table. And for pros, we think this is a big change because it gives them upside and benefit from the growth of the league. And it also provides a solid foundation for their salaries, which have risen in recent years, and we want to continue to be healthy. And it also unlocks our ability to do something like raising the minimum salaries to $75,000 so that being an NALCS pro is a viable career path.
Raising the minimum salary to $75K is a great start, but we think we can do even more to protect and support pros. When a young player enters the league, we want them to have a great experience from day one all the way through to retirement. And we don't think we've consistently hit that bar. We can do better, and we're going to start by creating a Players Association. The Players Association will do two main things. One, it will provide pros with a seat at the table on league-wide decisions, and it will also provide support services like legal and financial advice. We believe this new entity will help to ensure that the North American League Championship Series continues to be a great place to start and build a professional esports career.
And the third major change looks to build towards the future of the league and make it more sustainable. And an issue we have in our current ecosystem is that making long-term bets and long-term investments is incredibly risky. Whether it's a sponsor looking to sponsor a team long-term or a team looking to make expensive investment in a training facility to make their squad better. Right now, having the risk of relegation looming over their heads sort of encourages more of a short-term approach, and we think this is actually holding the NALCS back. So in order to improve this, we'll be looking to remove relegation starting in the 2018 season.
And we've heard some concern in the community about removing relegation, namely that it could affect competitive play because teams won't have to try because there's no risk of getting kicked out of the league. We hear you, and we're taking steps to minimize that risk. For one, teams that win will be rewarded, and teams that consistently lose or bottom feed intentionally will face escalating penalties.
Now, all that said, we think relegation being removed is a positive change, and it also unlocks other opportunities for us to make the league better. One such example is finally fixing Challenger and giving it a clear identity. So we'll be moving Challenger to more of an academy league, where each LCS team has an academy team that has a clear purpose of scouting new talent and developing the future stars of North America.
So to recap, we're going to be sharing revenue with teams and pros. We're going to be establishing a Players Association to support and protect pros. And we're going to be changing the structure of the league to remove relegation because we believe it will unlock future investment and also make the overall league more competitive.
And now there are a lot more details that we couldn't share with you today in this video, but you can go to lolesports.com and find it out there. But thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in the summer split.
Thanks, guys.
Alright, so that's the general video that gives you kind of the TLDR for what they're trying to go for with the new season, starting Season 8. And we're going to go through just some of the details. They've got quite a bit of writing to go along with this video. So the first big area that they're going to looking for is changing the league structure. So pretty much what they're going to do is they're going to go to a franchise system, similar to what you see in a lot of professional sports, at least North American professional sports. So basically, you know, like the NFL or the MLB or NBA, things like that. So it looks like we're going to have 10 teams. There's going to be no relegation in North America LCS starting in 2018, and they're going to be partners in the league. So yeah, pretty much a franchising kind of system. So they understand that removing relegation, some people don't like that, and they're going to put in some ways to try and mitigate, you know, teams like sandbagging and stuff like that. So the reason why they're basically doing this is because they want to make investors more likely to invest into esports. So you're talking not only just people who want to buy teams, but also like sponsors and things like that. Because a lot of sponsors will not invest in the LCS right now because, you know, the team might get relegated the next split. So this is hopefully going to try and help people or help the teams be able to lock up those sponsorship deals and get more money from those sponsorship deals. So the other thing that they're really trying to look for is that they're going to have this kind of application process to get into the LCS. So the way that I read into this is that there could potentially be a way that, you know, some of your favorite teams might not be around in 2018. So there is an application process. I'm going to go through this application process sooner, but there's no guarantee that the teams in the LCS now will be approved in the application process in 2018. So we'll get into that a little bit more later. But really, it seems like they're trying to make the team's player focus. So the big hurdle that these owners are going to have to get over is they're going to need to demonstrate to Riot that they have a lot of things in place to help the players. It seems like a lot of this is player focused and pro focused, and actually trying to legitimize being a professional League of Legends player as an actual career path, not just something that you do for a season or two and then all you can do with your life is streaming. Because a lot of these guys start doing this right after high school. They don't have a college education. They don't have anything to fall back on. So they really, their only options are play professionally or stream, because they don't have any other, you know, education or life skills, things like that. So I think this is really great for pros. It's going to really help them, because, you know, you're only going to be a professional for, you know, 5 years if you're lucky, maybe 10. You know, there's some guys who are still going strong, and, you know, obviously you need a plan after you get done being a pro. One issue that I have is that they are planning on incentivizing people to do well in the league by giving the teams that do well more money than the teams that do less money. And my concern with that is that if you give the better teams more purchase power, then they're going to be able to outbid the lower ranked teams for key talent. So new players coming up, the better teams in theory would be able to offer them more money so that the worst teams would stay bad and the good teams would just, you know, stay good, and it would kind of promote this like tiered hierarchy within the NALCS, and I don't think that's what they're going for. So I think that the other thing that needs to happen along with this reward structure is there needs to be a draft for new players. And obviously, we're kind of starting to get a little bit of that. You know, like some of the top challenger players are invited to a tournament, and then they can try out for teams and things like that. But it needs to become more formalized. I think using the college circuit could be a good way of doing this, or, you know, also the challenger scene, things like that. But there needs to be a draft so that way that the bad teams actually have a shot at improving, rather than just being relegated to always being a second tier team because they can't afford the best talent. Another thing they're doing is they're rebooting the Challenger Series. They said that they're going to call it an Academy League instead. So every single LCS team is going to have an Academy League. And this is basically going to be kind of very similar to like MLB, minor leagues, where you have these satellite teams that feed into the major teams. So there's going to be these academy teams, and then the academy players, once they cut their teeth and prove themselves, then they move into the actual LCS team. And this is great. This is great for young players to try and, get some cash and, continue playing and actually have a legitimate career as a professional gamer, even if they're not, the top player in the league. They're not going to, replace Bjergsen right away, right? This is for people who, after Bjergsen retires in, 5 years or whatever, that next person can move into that spot, and they're already well developed. They've already, been playing on the stage for a while now, and I think this is all designed to make League of Legends esports a something that lasts for decades to come rather than just for a couple seasons. So down here they have how you can join the franchise, the applications process, and this is really interesting. On paper it looks really good, but I do have some concerns with it, right? So they've got all sorts of things, like you have to come up with a brand plan, you have to figure out who the owners are, what the business plan is, what the team strategy is, like all great stuff. But the issue is that this is all under Riot's control. Riot can basically shut down anyone they want who applies. And what that basically means is that the teams that have earned an LCS slot right now are not guaranteed a slot in 2018. There's nothing in here that says that they're guaranteed a slot. They all have to apply. So if Riot doesn't like you as an owner, you're kind of screwed with this new process. I do think that the most popular teams are obviously going to probably be safe as long as they go through this process. TSM, CLG, Cloud9, those teams are safe for the most part, I think. But some of the newer teams, I don't know. I don't know if you're going to keep seeing, Immortals and some of these other teams that have recently, Envy, things like that. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there's definitely a possibility that Riot could just say no to these teams, and those teams could just cease to exist starting in 2018. But it's a three-phase process. They have the application submission, then the review process where Riot basically engages them, and the owners meet with Riot, and they do a presentation and a Q&A, and they do all this background checks and things like that, and then they announce the partnership. So it looks like they're going to announce who's going to actually be in the LCS in Q4 of 2017 in preparation for the 2018 season. So I'm assuming after Worlds they'll probably announce who are the people that are going to be in the LCS in 2018. But there's no telling who's going to be in the league. But it looks like that they're going to they said that to make sure that no players fall through the cracks, they're going to implement a buyout period where teams not selected will be able to negotiate the sale of their brand as well as any still contracted players. So they basically said right there that they may kick teams out of the LCS even if they already currently have an LCS slot. So they're not guaranteed a franchise spot just because you're in the LCS currently. So so that's interesting. I understand why they're doing it, but I definitely have some concerns as somebody who watches esports that somebody who invested a lot of time and money into the professional scene may not be rewarded just because Riot doesn't like their application. That's kind of disconcerting to me. So we'll see how that happens. I'm sure there's going to be some drama that results from this. Next up, they talk about sharing league revenue. And this is huge. This is something that people have been asking for a while, because for a long time, Riot has basically kept the vast majority of the money that has been generated for esports. And yeah, Riot, puts on a really good show. They've got a lot of, broadcasting, and they put up these amazing venues, all out of pocket for them. So, I mean, there's no telling if Riot's actually making money in the past couple of years, because they are spending a ton of money. But Riot has definitely been keeping all the money, and very little of it has been filtering down to the teams and the players. So this is really interesting that this is one of their primary goals of improvement. And this is really important because the more you legitimize, the more money you give to the teams and the players, the more you legitimize the teams and the players, and you actually make it so that people can actually have a career doing this, which is essential for esports to actually be viable long term. So yeah, this is great. So part of this is that the teams are going to be required to give some of their revenue that they generate based off of like sponsorships and things like that. They have to give that to the league. So only a portion. It's probably going to be like, I'm guessing like a third. Is probably going to go directly to the league. And then conversely, Riot is going to share a portion of all league-based revenue with the teams as well. So it's going to basically be that the teams contribute money to this pot, and then Riot contributes money to this pot, and then all the money is distributed based on a prearranged agreement to the players and the teams and to Riot. So this is really interesting. I definitely like it, and we can get into like the nitty-gritty details of who's going to get what. So first up, the players are going to get 75K minimum per year. So every single player in the LCS is going to get 75K minimum. I know a lot of the top players are making more than that, but that's great that that every player is going to make 75K. And when you're living in a house, and you're basically getting all your food paid for, and you don't have to have like car bills and things like that, 75K is a lot of money for people who don't have a lot of expenses. Like these pro players do. So they could definitely be pocketing quite a bit of money and putting it into savings or spending it on whatever they want. Additionally, they're going to have revenue sharing for the pros, which is really cool. They haven't really talked about how they're going to do it, like how they're going to split up the money. But basically how it works is that they say that 35% of all league revenue is going to go to the players, guaranteed. So the players have their normal contract, and they're guaranteed to make whatever's in their contract. But if the sum of all the players' salaries does not equal 35% of league revenue, then Riot will give them basically bonuses so that the players' salaries equal 35% of league revenue. They don't talk about how that extra money would be distributed. I'm guessing that it's going to be based off of a tiered structure based on either how much the player already makes, or it's going to be based off of what place the team gets. So like the first place team would get more money than the 10th place team in bonus money. That's probably the most likely, is that they're just going to tier it so that you incentivize the players to do well, because then they'll get more of a bonus at the end of the season. So that's really cool that the players get 35%. So that's over a third of league revenue is going to the players. So that's fantastic. Next, it talks about the teams. It says that the teams are also going to be entitled to 32.5% share of the revenues. And this is where it gets confusing, because obviously the teams pay the players' salaries. So they don't make it clear whether this 32.5% goes to paying the players' salaries, which would be 35%. And if that's how it works, then the teams are essentially always going to be at a deficit, right? They're going to have there's a 2.5% difference between what the players have to make and what the teams get. So that doesn't really make any sense. However, if they're saying that the teams just get 32.5%, and then they also get an additional 35% that they have to distribute to the players, then that means that the teams are going to be getting 67.5% of league revenue, which means that Riot only gets 32.5% left over of the revenue, which is a huge pay cut for Riot when you're looking at this, because Riot was making, I'd say at least 60%, probably more like 70 or 80% of the money before 2018 was going directly to Riot. And now they're saying that, it looks like they're saying that about 2/3 of the money is going to be going to the teams, and the teams are going to split it half between the players and half between, the league staff and the gaming house and, the academy team and things like that. If that's the case, then that's a huge amount of money that Riot is giving back to the teams and the players. And that's amazing. that Riot actually is investing in the teams and is investing in the players. And it's a really great thing if this is true. It's not clear if this is what Riot is doing. I think that I would like a little bit more explanation on how they're going to be breaking down the money between the players and the teams and Riot. Like a pie graph would be fantastic. But it sounds like they're basically giving a third to the players, a third to the teams, and a third to Riot, which is a very fair split. And it's also, pretty remarkable that Riot is willing to give up that much equity in the esports scene to make sure that the teams are well funded and the players are well funded. It's really some great foresight, because a lot of companies will kind of just take all the money they can, and have a short-term focus. But it looks like Riot has a very long-term focus if this is the distribution of wealth that they're going for, because this is going to allow the teams to have enough money to operate. It's going to allow the players to make a really good salary, and it's going to encourage more people to get into the esports scene, to go and try and be a pro or be a coach or be an analyst for these teams. And that's what you need in order to develop a large base of people who enjoy watching the sport. So yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited if this is how they're doing it. If they're going to do it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, then I'm really impressed. I'm really proud of what Riot is doing, and I think it's a phenomenal idea. So yeah, I hope that's what they're doing. I hope that's what they're doing. It sounds like that it's going to be that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split. So, and then the final thing that they're talking about is that they're going to give the pros a larger voice and better protections. So they talk about how, they've already talked about how they want to make it so that the pros can go to college after they retire, and that they can actually pursue, other careers if they want. They're not just stuck, being a commentator or being a streamer or something like that. They can actually do other stuff with their lives if they decide that, they want to move on from League of Legends. And then the other big thing that they're doing is they're going to be setting up a players association. So it's going to be players are going to vote for independent reps to be their voice in league decisions. So basically they're setting up a players union, very much like they have in a lot of other professional sports. And Riot said that they're going to fund the launch of the association, but eventually the players are going to pay for this. So while the players are going to get more money in their salaries and they're guaranteed additional money, they're guaranteed a percentage of the league revenue, they're going to have to pay for this player association in the long term. So it really is going to be like a union where the players are going to have to pay dues to cover the cost of these reps that they're going to elect. And they have basically this plan where they're going to have step one, they're going to vote, and then they're going to plan, and they're going to represent. And, Riot is going to propose some people to be player representatives, and the players can vote either to have these people represent them, or they can vote independent people. So I'm guessing that these representatives are probably going to be ex-players. So this could be a possible avenue for retired players to continue being involved in the esports scene, and to, because, who knows better than an ex-pro on, what the struggles of being a professional player are. So this is great. This is phenomenal. I like it that they're actually going to try and protect the pros more, because there was some really shady stuff that went on in the early seasons of League of Legends. A lot of players got mistreated, in Season 1 and Season 2. So I'm really glad that this is a huge focus of Riot, and that the players are going to, it really legitimizes it, and really makes it a valid career path for young, teenagers who want to become professional players. So that's basically it. Changing league structure, sharing revenue, protecting the pros. This is only in the NALCS. They have not posted anything for the EU LCS or the Korean or Chinese or anywhere else. This is just for NALCS. It's happening. Spring split 2018, so the Season 8 spring split. If you guys have any questions, I'll do my best to try and answer them. If if there's something I missed, or if you have some more inside information, leave a comment. I'd love to get some more information on how exactly the revenue sharing is going to work. Whether it's actually going to be that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split, which it seems like it's going to be. And then yeah, I hope you guys have a fantastic day. This is Randomonium signing off.